What's happening, everyone? Pragmatic Addict here. I'm here with Jacob. So I know that I've said this over the past few episodes. When I was watching these episodes, I was like, I know how I'm gonna start this review, as usual. So reading the plots for these, I was excited, and I know I say that time and time again, but please hear me out. Okay, so this title for one of these episodes was called "The Day Butthead Went Too Far." Now, just from that title, it's like as if he hasn't already. So basically, what the plot for this episode is that Butthead pushes Beavis too far, where Beavis actually attempts to hire a hitman to murder Butthead. And then the second episode, called Spring Break. This episode, plot-wise, at least what it stated, it wasn't anything like too grabbing, but it was a Spring Break episode, which reminded me very much, and even from the snippets that we saw in the trailer for this season, it reminded me of the episode River that we got last season, where they're trying to meet up with girls, and they're not allowed in the community pool because they keep pissing in it. So, just from these two being together, I was really excited to check out these episodes, so let's talk about them.
They do seem a little perfect timing because, summer's coming on and all that, and it's just kind of like...
We were talking about that. I'm like, don't you think it's kind of funny that, summer just started and they're dropping a Spring Break episode and an episode where Beavis gets a fucking sunburn from a slip and slide? Which we'll talk about. So, talking about the episode, The Day That Butthead Went Too Far... yes, like I was just saying a second ago, this episode basically opens up with Beavis and Butthead building their own slip and slide. And it basically goes exactly how you'd expect. It's this shitty piece of, tarp with some water running down from, a hose with bricks to hold it down. So, basically what ends up happening is obviously Beavis gonna be the fucking guinea pig. Obviously, why wouldn't he? So, he goes first, and when he goes on the slip and slide, he ends up crashing into the bricks, where he gets knocked out, and Butthead being Butthead is basically like, oh, well, who knows, he probably fucking died. Leaves his ass out there in the sun, goes inside, Beavis comes in a while after, with the worst fucking sunburn. Now, here's what I want to say really quickly. I have a bone to pick with this episode, a personal one. Because as a white kid from the fucking desert, I have had some sunburns. I got, PTSD from sunburns. And knowing how morbid and how torture porn-esque Beavis and Butthead can be, obviously with Beavis, of the two, having the sunburn, you can already tell what's gonna bring Beavis to want to murder Butthead finally. So yes, basically Beavis walks in, and sure enough, with Beavis having a massive sunburn, Butthead just fucking goes to town on that shit. And it basically gets to the point where we actually see a more serious, more darker turn from Beavis, not only in this scene, but in this entire episode, where he basically looks at Butthead, and it's a slow zoom in on him, and he's like, Butthead, I've said this many times, that I would kill you, but I'm actually gonna do it. Try it again, and I swear to God, whap! Butthead just goes to town several other times on his fucking sunburn. And what I want to also note is that, last episode where it was, what was it, the episode where Beavis has rabies, that was a narrative piece from Beavis. This is also a narrative piece from Beavis, but this is more in tune with Beavis, where during the narrative speeches, you can actually hear him, doing his fucking shitty ass laughing and kind of, battling his own thoughts with that. But also what I do want to know, which I was kind of mixed on, is that, like I said earlier, this is a more serious, darker episode. And sometimes, even as humor, it's not always there, which was very odd to me. Not odd in the sense of, what it was going for. This was definitely going for the dark crime, kind of noir fashion. With Beavis actually meeting up with a hitman and everything. So it's definitely got its humor to it. It's just in a much more dark comedy fashion.
just to interrupt, as somebody who's been badly sunburned, I can actually relate to Beavis.
Yeah.
'Cause I actually got, like, really badly sunburned when I was, like, I think 15. And, I just got done being forced to take a bath. That was a painful bath, by the way. And my cousin comes up to me, he's all like, but only it was a tiny bit harder, and I was like, ah!
Did he know that you had the sunburn, though?
He kind of forgot. It was kind of unintentional.
So, obviously, he wasn't butthead. That's good.
No, but, like, at that moment, I was just, like, in so much pain. Not much to kill him, but, like, I wanted to smack him, but not for real, though.
Yeah, and again, as people that have been through that, and knowing the shitty end of the stick that Beavis always gets, you'd think that the route that Beavis goes down, we'd actually be rooting for him. But I was just so focused on this dude's sunburn, just the cringe on that, on a personal note, that I couldn't really even focus on it. But this was definitely a darker episode than we were used to. Also, I do want to talk really quickly about the commentary. Just very quickly. It's another Lil Nas X music video. Now, I don't know why, but they just love clowning on this dude. And I also want to note that, so as far as the commentary goes in these episodes, I usually only comment on it if I actually gained something from it. Which, in this episode, it's them commenting on the music video where it shows, like, Lil Nas and he's, like in a devil form. And Beavis is actually recalling how he almost got recruited from a Satanist to join, like, a Satanist group. So, just on a commentary level, I had a lot of fun with that.
I'm going to be honest, there was a moment where I'm like, okay, yeah, they definitely are doing the Beavis and Butthead that got drafted from the 90s and then put into our time, because Butthead was basically, or not Butthead, sorry, Beavis was basically doing his stand-up routine, but he was doing it in a Seinfeld-esque way. It's just kind of reminiscent of the 90s.
That's another thing is, like, I always respect this revival whenever they try and do something new. And we see, like, Beavis, for whatever fucking reason, it makes no sense, like it never does. But he's basically doing the stand-up thing where he's like, man, and what about blah, 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 you know, what's up with that? Butthead's basically like, why are you talking like that, Beavis? And Beavis pulls out, like, a notepad and a pencil, he's like writing shit down. It's just one of those things where it's like, why? But obviously I'll take it. But going back to the episode, so I'm not gonna spoil how this all wraps up, but it basically comes down where Beavis gets that classic shitty end of the stick outing, and obviously with him having this sunburn, with that being the center of the episode where he's gonna get the pain from this time around, it definitely goes out in that morbid play out. And overall, I thought this episode was fine. I thought it was very cringe-inducing for me. It was a little bit hardcore in my taste, but I thought it was fine.
I thought the video was pretty funny. I thought there was moments where I'm just like, okay, this isn't gonna end well for Beavis. I'm just like,
I thought it was gonna end well for Butthead.
In some ways, I thought it was going to end bad for Butthead, but there was moments where I was like, okay, Beavis is going to have a tragic ending here.
And speaking of tragic endings, let's get into episode 2 now. Now, episode 2, called Spring Break, like I was saying, the plot, it wasn't anything that was necessarily like something I needed to see, but I will say this, as someone who's seen the episode now, the plot is very vague. So the premise is read that the boys decide to mail themselves to spring break. So basically what the episode really is that it opens up with Beavis and Butthead showing up for school, only to realize that the school is actually closed for what they think is spring break. No, it's fucking Christmas vacation. So at first we were like, okay, well that's kind of cool. Both episodes coincidentally center on like summer and spring break, only to get fucking blindsided by the fact that it's fucking Christmas vacation. Basically, how this episode plays out is that they decide that they want to mail themselves to spring break, which they say is in Florida. So they write Florida on a box, a cardboard box. They get into it, leave themselves on the side of the road in front of a postal service in hopes that a mail truck will pick them up, see Florida, and just drop them off there. Nah, It's a cardboard box on the side of the road. A fucking dump truck picks them up. So what I will say before going further is that this is one of those episodes where it didn't do too much for me, but it didn't really do anything that I was against either. It was kind of like one of those things where as it played out, I could have called that. Yeah, that sounds about right. I've seen this kind of thing even before, where with the ending, how it kind of starts to play out. It actually reminded me of a SpongeBob episode, which I will talk about at the very end. But for the most part with this episode, I was just kind of like rolling with it. Like, for example, they get dropped off at the dump, and Beavis and Butthead, being them, are like, wow, Florida's a lot cooler than I thought it would look. And they end up, from there, they're like, well, where's all the chicks? And Butthead's like, well, they're probably out getting Jello shots. So they end up coming across like some toxic waste, drinking that. From there, they end up walking a little bit further into the dump to find an abandoned car. So this is where I said it remind me a lot of the SpongeBob episode, and that is the idiot box. You know, I'm getting big SpongeBob vibes. It takes place in a cardboard box. It takes him to the dump. Squidward's imagining that he's driving a car, which is kind of how it plays out in this Beavis and Butthead episode. They find this rundown car, and they try to drive it, only to actually think that they're driving it, but they're actually just getting picked up by the crane. And not to spoil too much, but like I said before, these are 10-minute episodes. I'm gonna spoil it. This might be one of the most brutal endings we have ever gotten in a Beavis and Butthead episode. Which, actually, you know what? Let's not spoil it. Let me just give you a guess. This crane picks up this rundown car that they're in, that they think they're driving, and they're in a dump. How morbid Beavis and Butthead episodes end, you can probably put the pieces together. Just watch this all the way through. And all I'm going to say is that from this ending, I'm really curious as to where this season is going to go next, with half of this season being over. And overall, I thought this episode was okay too. Overall, I thought both of these episodes were fine. Obviously, the first one I thought was much better.
I'm going to give the first one, definitely, I'm going to give it a 6.9. Yeah, I know. And this one, I'm going to give it a full-on 10, just because of how hilarious the ending was. That ending just, I couldn't stop laughing at how...
I will say this, it definitely blindsided me. Again, like, a lot of this episode, I was kind of guessing where it would go, and it wasn't really, like, anything that was, you know, surprising other than the actual plot of, like, where its center is, you know, being in Christmas Vacation. But one thing I can always look forward to and always prepare myself for is the ending of the episodes, and this one fucking goes out, man. It goes out. But yes, guys, that is going to do it for our Beavis and Butthead Episode 7 review. Wow. We're already more than halfway into this season. I really hope we get a third season. But yes, guys, with all that being said, that is going to do it for our Episode 7 review. Make sure to check out my review I did actually right before dropping this video. I am going to be dropping this video a little bit later than what I normally would, because I actually did get back from my screening last night of The Little Mermaid, so make sure to check that one out if you guys are curious about it. But with all that being said, guys, we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys always so much for watching. I look forward to the comments. I look forward to talking with you guys more and more about Beavis and Butthead next week. Also, make sure to check out Jacob's breakdowns. He does breakdowns every week of the episodes. Also, make sure to check out 8-Bit Massacre's Beavis and Butthead reactions. Looking forward to that one as well. But yes, guys, with all that being said, we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.